Well, this past week I actually went to Anime Expo. And it was not only my first trip to AX, but it was also my first time in LA. Yeah, the real GTA 5 as they say. And I'm here to catalog my experience. So, where do I get started? How about the fact that once I actually left LAX, I saw Square Enix, so that immediately set the tone for the entire trip. Square, can you remake Star Ocean Blue Spear now? I actually stayed in downtown LA, and I roomed with two other friends. My friends Tortilla Senpai, if you know her, and another buddy named Estelle. These days I was really excited that I actually ran into friends, like in the airport, and we flew in on Wednesday, and that night I actually had some dinner with those friends, and we prepared for the next day in the con. So I guess how I'm gonna structure this is that we'll go day by day, and then I'll talk about the things I saw, the things I loved, and thoughts and experiences I had. So yeah, just things I remember from each one of those days. So, without further ado, let's get started with day one. So I was actually pretty intimidated to go on the first day because as someone who's never gone, I've always seen the pics of AX of how big it is and how many people there could be. But this year, it was actually pretty solid. Like, it felt like a normal con, if that sounds weird enough. And the reason being is because most of those pictures that you see, they come from not only the most packed days, but also AX decided to do something crazy this year. Previous years, what they would do is have everyone come through the main entrance. But this year, they decided to have multiple entrances, so traffic was more thinly spread out. So right when we came in on like the right side, so we had to walk all the way over to the main entrance, and there they actually had the metaphor photo op. That's where you could take a picture and then they would give you one of the notebooks. And on day one, I decided to be Hawaiian Ichiban because I've had that cosplay, and one of the things I decided to do this time with it is have a little Nancy plush for my cosplay. And that, I feel, really added to it, and people on Twitter seem to really like it, so I'm very happy about that. As I went into the main expo hall, my first stop was the Sega booth. Trust me, I was there a lot throughout the trip, but for a good reason, and the major first reason was I needed to make sure I got all the merch. So I could not miss out on the Like a Dragon merch, and most of the stuff I got was just Like a Dragon merch from the Sega booth. So I picked myself up a desk mat, a wall scroll, an Ichiban shirt, and both the Kiryu and the Ichiban pens. A thing I noticed for this con is that people were doing was capping lines, and I assume that's because, you know, traffic and all that kind of stuff. And I remember the Sega store line, it got capped multiple times on day one. But for the following days, it was just fine. Like, you can literally just go in and buy what you want. But on the first day, it always was capped. I assumed everyone had the same idea of getting all their merch. But also, I noticed that there were most items that didn't get sold out, but the obvious items got sold out. Like, for example, all the Vocaloid pins and I think the Persona 3 desk mats got sold out. So I assumed that was everyone's targets rather than any of the Like a Dragon stuff or any of the Sonic stuff. In which they had some Sonic stuff, which I kind of wanted, but I was also like, $50 for an acrylic statue? Are you kidding me? It looked cool, but I think I'm good. There were other experiences they had at the Sega booth. For example, there was an SMT5 Vengeance thing there, where if you took a photo op with the cosplayers they had there, they'd give you a free bag. And also they had one for Persona 3 Reload, where if you took a picture, you would get the free lanyard. And I didn't take a picture, but I did get the free lanyard because they started handing out the lanyards. Like, they started just giving them away, which is hilarious to me. They just started they just started giving them away, and I just like went in. Oh, they have the last one? Snagged. So I didn't have to take a picture at all to get my lanyard. The lanyard they gave me inside the bag was like a My Hero one, which I'm not a huge My Hero fan. I know Tortilla is. I think that day she was in My Hero cosplay, so she had to have like tape on her arm and stuff like that. So Either way, I started roaming the expo hall. Recently, I've been getting into Spy Family, so I saw a little Anya figure that I kind of thought was cute, so I bought it. And then I came across the Bamco booth, and there was a line for Sparking Zero. It wasn't capped, so I was just like, you know, if I'm gonna play Sparking Zero, today might be the best time to go, so I got in line, and I got to play Sparking Zero. Unfortunately for Sparking Zero fans, or for Dragon Ball fans, I'm just gonna say I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'm sorry, I was excited. I'm excited for the game. It's Budokai Tenkaichi, a new Budokai Tenkaichi, but like, I could not get into the game. I felt like I was expecting, I guess because I didn't go in with the right mindset, I was expecting Budokai Tenkaichi, like the game would control like BT3. It's definitely not Raging Blast, so okay, I'll take not Raging Blast. But I feel that and this is possibly because Bamco was not properly ventilating the machines or the PS5s, that the performance on Sparking Zero is really bad. Even when I was watching from like other people play, it was not good. Like the performance was not good. And when I was playing, I played on City, so that might have something to do with it. The stage called City, where there's a lot of destructible environments. But the frame rate, it was just not very good. The gameplay, it felt fine-ish. I was expecting a little bit more depth. Like, for example, I was expecting it to play like Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which I was used to. Like, for example, like most of the same stuff was there. Like, you can, like, different combos and stuff like that. I think I was talking to Shondell, and he said that, like, they were adding mechanics from, like, Budokai Tenkaichi 2, which was interesting. That wasn't in 3, but I was also like, where are my charge attacks, or like things like that. So I want to like it, but I was also I didn't really get into it that much. I couldn't really get into it. But I remember one of the other stories I had from there was that I noticed the player that was playing on the demo booth before me, and no offense, but this player was very sweaty. I know it was the expo hall, it's a lot of people, but I remember seeing sweat marks, but I can see all his sweat. And so I noticed that the booth people were like, yeah, go ahead. And like, I asked them, I'm like, is this okay if I clean this or whatever? And they're like, oh no, you're fine. And I noticed on the headphones, there was still some sweat on it. I saw the wipes to the right of me, so I took one and I just started cleaning it before I played it, and I made sure I did it with the PS5 controller. So I don't know, Bamco, before you let people to your booths, please like clean them. You know, clean the controllers. I know you have a lot of people to get through, but I was willing to take like the 10 to 20 seconds to do so. And I noticed, like, that's something I'll give Sega when they were doing their Metaphor booth. They made sure they cleaned after every single player, so, yeah. Anyway, Sparking Zero was just okay. I remember there was the Aniplex booth that I went to. There was someone with there was a Tomizawa cosplayer who wanted to get some pictures, which was nice. I was really excited because I was looking for stuff to do at the Aniplex booth because they had like Fate stuff there, and I don't like Fate, but I've been trying to get into Tsukihime because I really liked Melty Blood a lot. So I'm trying to actually play. I've been playing the remake on my Switch when I finally got home, and when I got to the booth, they had this big like thing of like this big ad for Tsukihime, and I'm like, oh crap, do they have any like Tsukihime promotions, any Tsukihime like stuff or anything? The only thing they had was like an Arsid statue that was way above my I couldn't afford the Arsid statue. It was like $180, and I was like, do you have anything that we could do? And it's like, oh, if you do these Fate things around or like go into the experience, you'll get a free bag. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. So, you know, I just start roaming the expo hall. And I think that's around the time I went back to my hotel, and then we just dropped off some stuff, and then I had to go to the Like a Dragon meetup. And there was pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. The RGG cosplay meetup, it was a lot of fun. I met Mars Girl and Josh there. They were really sweet, really fantastic people. I also met Tony there, you know, the Yakuza guy on Twitter. So like, there was a lot of really interesting stuff we talked about, and we took a lot of really good pics. And I loved a lot of the cosplayers there. There was like 5 Tomizawas, which I was a bit surprised by but I didn't realize how popular Tomizawa was. There was 3 Yamais, which I was laughing I was so happy to see Yamai, but there was 3 of them. And there was a few other Ichibans that came here and there, but I feel like I was the most active one because I always made sure I didn't want to make sure I got in pictures, but it was always like, oh, I gotta get into this picture, or like, you need an Ichiban. I'm like, okay, I'll step in. And then I'm like, alright, make sure there's other Ichibans getting in, because I'm like, hey y'all, if any of the Ichibans, I remember there was one picture where I asked, hey, I'm trying to put back on my Nancy, if there's any other Ichibans that want to get in, you can take my bat. And then all the other Ichibans just stand there, and I'm like, oh, are y'all just putting this on me then? But yeah, there was the RGG cosplay meetup was a lot of fun. So yeah, I think after the RGG meetup, we just kind of walked around Artist Alley, then head back to the hotel. I ended up hurting myself. So I was walking back and I was looking on Twitter, and then I ended up tripping on one of the like poles or whatever. It's like a very low pole or like a pole or like a little stump. Essentially, I think people sit on it, and it's like for like guarding, you know, people parking there or whatever. But essentially, I tripped on one of those, ended up hurting my knee, and I was good, but like, you know, there wasn't a lot of blood or anything. But yeah, I just felt like an absolute klutz when that happened. So day two. On Friday, we got up and I wanted to make sure we didn't miss the metaphor panel. And kind of getting a little close, because when we lined up for when we were heading out, I texted my friend about the metaphor panel, and they were already lined up. We were at the hotel and they were already lined up. So I'm like freaking out, like, oh god, we're gonna miss. The line's gonna get capped. Line's filling up. We're gonna get capped. But luckily, since it is Petrie Hall actually has a pretty big room, so they're able to fit like 1,000 people in there. So I wasn't too worried at the same time. I thought we wouldn't be able to get in, but we got in easily. I finally got to really understand what Metaphor was all about. They kind of showed off the story, a few of the character designs, and I got to see Katsura Hoshino and Sojima IRL. That was kind of insane to me, because I've never, like, you know, you see these dudes in pictures and you're just like, oh my god, they're real people when you actually see them, like, live, which is hilarious to me. So yeah. Friday could have been better, because a lot of my plans, a lot of them just came down to just more of exploring the expo hall, and then we had to, like, you know, checking out Artist Alley and meeting up with friends. Yeah, I had to adjust my schedule a few other times, because yeah, that day I was Claude C. Kenny. The Claude C. Kenny cosplay. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to do some adjustments, because I was sweaty the entire freaking time. I wanted to die when I was in that cosplay, because I have a really heavy jacket that has long sleeves. I don't want to cut the sleeves because it's a very nice jacket. My hair and the headband, it can get really hot up there, and I'm like, I need to adjust this cosplay to make sure I'm not like dying, because by the end of the day I was dying. But anyway, we got to hang out with Shell and Corey Maru. I remember that's also where we discovered like a lot of the little merch booths, or like there was this booth that had like a bunch of imported stuff, like CDs, games, and stuff like that from Japan. And so I ended up buying like a Japanese copy of Star Ocean: The Second Story. They had the first book of the Mayumi Ozma's Treasure, so I picked that up. I remember being asked by the clerk, like, oh, why didn't you pick this one up? Or why didn't you pick up the second one? You know, there's a second one over there. And I'm like, you're talking to the man who literally bought the second one just to preserve it on Internet Archive. So yeah, I already had it. And the funniest thing that happened between me and Shell there, when we were browsing, I saw the karaoke CD for the Yakuza series, or the RGG series, and there were 2 copies, so I put one in my bag, and I put one in her bag, and she was like, yeah, so, yeah, we just kind of had that connection there, and we're just like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this. I know you're gonna buy this, so might as well just put it in there. But then we were looking for all the Sakura Wars stuff. I found some Sakura Wars CDs, and I probably need to listen to them. And there was other interesting things that I did that day. I went to the 18 plus area that day too. And it was to meet someone else. It was for a different meetup that I ended up not fully wanting to do because it featured like 5 other cosplayers. But I decided to buy a copy of Honey Pop, the PC game, Honey Pop. Manga Gamer had a booth there, and they actually had physical versions of Honey Pop. And I'm like, I've been wanting to get this for years. I'm old enough to get it now, and I can, whatever, sure. I'll buy a physical version of Honey Pop. It's one of the second games I ever reviewed. I'm not really proud of that review, but whatever. Anyway, so I buy my copy of Honey Pop, and then the clerk asked me, hey, do you want a bag? And so I said yes. When I got my bag, it was a huge bag, which some other game I have no idea about, but everyone could tell this was definitely a Coomer bag. So I was like, how do I get rid of this? I don't want this bag. I didn't want to tell them, but it was like, I just got something that's literally a DVD copy. And they gave me this huge bag, and I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want to be grouped into like this area or whatever. But yeah, the 18 plus area, I'd probably never go there again because that's all I wanted. And there was like, just stuff I really wasn't getting into, 18 plus area. I'm not going to talk about it. But yeah, there was like a meetup I was supposed to go to, or this, I wanted to meet a certain cosplayer, which I'll get into later. But essentially, she and 5 other like cosplayers were like doing this, meet and greet or whatever. And I'm like, all right, this could be a good time. And when I arrive, like 30 minutes beforehand, there's already a line. So they had to figure out that because they wouldn't get to every single person like at the same time, they had to do like time tickets. So like people, basically the people who were first there, they would get a time ticket to come at a different time. And I'm like, I'm just here to meet one cosplayer, and they said they had a meet and greet. And so I was seeing some people behind me, they started complaining. They like, there were some people that were getting really mad because they're like, oh, we didn't know we were supposed to arrive beforehand, blah, 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 because it was like a spur of the moment sort of thing. And so I decided to leave. Then I'm like, I just want to meet one of the people, and they're going to be at a different booth anyway. So I went back. Here, you can take my ticket. I don't need it. So, yeah. And yeah, most of that day was Artist Alley. There were some things I bought, and I remember sitting down, and I'm like, all right, I just want to do the Mega 64 panel, and we're done. And yes, Mega 64 panel. I love Mega 64. I was so happy. Like, that was like probably the funniest panel I went to that during Anime Expo, because Mega 64, they knock it out the park. Rocco, Sean, Derek, and all of them. I love Mega 64 so much. So, and of course, they had their Q&A at the end of it, and of course I had to be the last question. They always put pressure on the last person for the last question when they were leaving, and That's also where Rocco announced that he was going to be at the Essence of Fandom event and he would be karaokeing. So, but I was also really excited for that. And when they said like, oh, who's going to Essence of Fandom? And then it was like literally the 5 of us seated together. It was like me, Tortilla, Tony, and I think his brother. We all like started cheering, and then like 2 other people in the crowd. So like, yeah, there was like a really low amount of people who were going to Essence of Fandom because it sold out. Yeah, that's when Rocco finally announced that he was going to be there. But also, when back to the last question thing, when I was finally asked, oh, what's going to be the last question? We have a lot of pressure on this. And I decided to ask if Rocco would ever consider being on Morning Somewhere, which Morning Somewhere is a podcast essentially with Bernie Burns and his wife, Ashley Burns, and they just kind of talk about like morning stuff, what's going on in the current news. It's a really nice little sweet podcast, and sometimes he comes down to Austin to like interview other people for Morning Someone. And so I was wondering if Rocco would ever be a part of that podcast, which, considering the topic of the panel his immediate response was no. When I finally said like, oh yeah, it's a podcast with Bernie and Ashley, and he's like, no. So that was a funny one. That was a funny way to end the panel. Friday was a lot of fun. I expected to do more, but yeah, Friday was still fun. Metaphor was pretty exciting, and I knew that I wanted to play Metaphor, but I knew Saturday wasn't going to be the best option, so I had to get in on Sunday. And we'll get to Metaphor, trust me. But yeah, didn't really do any demos, didn't really play much. I was just kind of exploring the hall, exploring Artist Alley. Actually, 2 more games I forgot to mention. So I got to play the new Phantom Brave, and as someone who wasn't really a huge person into Phantom Brave, I kind of liked it. I have the PS2 version, and I haven't really tried it out, but I didn't realize like how Phantom Brave kind of worked. And it's like you can summon your people or like your party members into the field like through certain objects, and then like you could have pick up different weapons and stuff like that. And it was like a tactics-based game. I kind of did like Phantom Brave. It was the new one. They led me to like a Switch platform or whatever. They wanted me to play the game on Switch, but I did see the reveal for Phantom Brave on Switch, and I was just like, even if you remember, Jacob mentioned that like the frame rate wasn't good, so I made sure I'm like, give me a PS5, give me on the PS5 version. But I thought the Phantom Brave was kind of neat. It was mostly just like they show me like a little battle, how the game worked and that sort of thing, and what you can do. And I think I might want to get into Phantom Brave maybe later down the line. I thought it was neat. I thought the new Phantom Brave was pretty neat. And the other game I played, the demo for Card-en-Ciel. And Card-en-Ciel was like this sort of it kind of reminded me of like it's kind of like Mega Man Battle Network except with cards and stuff like that. It's kind of like supposed to be this like Kingdom Hearts-ish sort of thing with all the Inti Creates characters. Like there's cards from Gunvolt and all their other different franchises, and you get to like fight other characters from all the different franchises in like this digital world. And I didn't get all the references or anything, but I thought the game was fun. I thought like you have to like discard for movement, and you have to be and it's like very slow pace, but you have to be kind of mindful of like your positioning and like how much resources you're using. And yeah, I thought Card-en-Ciel, it's definitely like those 2 games, those were like the ones I almost forgot that I played, but I thought but at the same time thought they were very neat. And especially if you're like into Inti Creates or like Gunvolt and stuff like that, I do recommend Card-en-Ciel. And I do want to check out Phantom Brave, the new Phantom Brave, probably later down the line, but definitely keep my eyes out for those smaller little games, I guess. So yeah. And yeah, I guess we could just move on to day 3. Day 3 was kind of interesting because I needed to go to the shadow panel. And so for the shadow panel, I started waiting in line pretty early. And I got a little scared that we weren't able to get into the shadow panel because right beforehand, they had the Fate panel, the Fate Stay Night or whatever, you know, Saber, Excalibur, whatever. Anyways, I didn't realize how many people were fans of Fate? Like, that Fate line, it got capped like multiple times. There were like people outstretched. It was like there were so many people lining up to get into Fate. And then we just had the Sonic fans there just like, we're here for Sonic. We just want to get in line whenever Fate's done or whatever. But yeah, there were so many people for Fate. And like the Sonic people were just like, yeah. So I ended up getting in line pretty early for Sonic. And I was there waiting, and I got to talk with a few other Sonic fans. There's a different other cosplayers I saw during that time. And yeah, I think the Sonic panel was pretty awesome, actually. I got to sit with my best friends, and we also got to see what they were working on when it came to the Shadow animation, and they showed a preview of it, and if you went, you actually got a free poster. A lot of the people that were there included Zeno Robinson, Kirk Thornton, and Stephanie Shea, who's currently voicing Maria, and Takashi Iizuka was there as well. It was a pretty fun panel, and everyone got extremely hyped. And to talk about the Shadow clip, it's 3D, but like seeing all the shots, and like I was watching with Corey, and I was literally going, oh my god, that's such a cool shot. And then they were talking about how they had to implement a lot of the emotions for like the characters from Shay and Kirk. So like, it makes me think that when it comes to Shadow, we are so freaking back, man. Like, I really am excited for what they're gonna do with Shadow, not only in Sonic X Shadow Generations, but I feel a lot of this is gonna move into movie 3 as well. So we'll get to see how the character of Shadow develops, and yeah, the Sonic panel was just amazing, and I loved it so much. Now, hopefully we can get that Sonic Movie 3 trailer. Saturday was filled with some great ups and some great downs. I wanted to go to the Megaten meetup, but unfortunately there were other things that kept me busy during that time because I wanted to do other things around that time. I wanted to hang out with friends, but like I saw pictures of the Megaten meetup, of the Shin Megami Tensei and the Persona meetup, and I wanted to go. Like I said, I really wanted to go, but I never got the chance to go, unfortunately. But then I did make up for Friday because I finally got to meet Peach Milky. You know, she's the face model for Ashley in RE4, and she was also in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth as one of the Mismatch girls, so being an Ichiban cosplay, you know, it kind of fits. Kind of funny, haha. Alright, this is post-editing, but I forgot to mention this as well. So right after the Shadow panel, I started roaming the expo hall for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, when I'm walking past, and then all of a sudden, I run into a man I admired over the years. And yes, I ran into Takashi Iizuka. You know, the head of Sonic Team, director of Sonic Adventure, the man himself, Takashi Iizuka. I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but I remember I was just walking, and I'm like, is that Iizuka-san? And so, like, I literally just ran up to him, and it's just like, you know, asked for a picture, made it very quick, made it very respectful, because I didn't expect him to actually just be roaming the expo hall. And so I was just really happy to meet him, and it's like, literally, I'm trying to be as respectful as possible, but he could probably tell, and I can tell, and like, it was probably obvious that I was freaking out the entire time, because, you know, this man means a lot to me, and to finally get the chance to actually see and meet him was just kind of insane to me. One of the things I was definitely looking forward to on Saturday, not only was Essence of Fandom, but Look Back. So, I'm gonna go on a little rant here. Look Back was supposed to be this movie that's supposed to premiere at Anime Expo, and it's supposed to be this like movie. It's based on a one-shot manga. I didn't know the author, but essentially I really needed this was like the thing I was definitely looking forward to, especially because BlackRock told me, you need to go to this, you will love this. So I made sure I allotted a lot of time to make sure I get into Look Back. When it's time to line up for Look Back, this is like an hour and 30 beforehand. The line is pretty okay, but however, we're standing out in the hot sun. So there's a bunch of people standing out in the sun. One of the things I really did not like about Anime Expo's panels is that they did not clear the rooms beforehand. So essentially, if you got into a panel beforehand, if you got in for one of the panels beforehand, you can just sit and loiter there and just be there the entire day and wait for your panel. So you can probably guess where this is going. For Look Back, there was there was like what, 300, I want to say 300 to 400 people lined up outside in the sun. There was no covering, but because they put Look Back in such a small room and the previous panel beforehand was not cleared out, only 30 people could get in. So essentially, they put a movie premiere in a very small room, and in comparison to all the other rooms where different panels were, for example, Shadow or Metaphor, which was in Petrie Hall, they put it in a really tiny room, and the people who did want to watch it didn't get the chance to. And like I said, we waited for like an hour and 30 in the sun just to get that information. It was absolutely frustrating. Like, I could have either gone to Kinnikuman, I could have gone back home and gotten something to eat, or back to the hotel. Like, I was just like super tired, and I just decided to head over to the Lounge 21 where they were gonna have Essence of Fandom. And luckily everyone else was there, but I had to find like food beforehand. Food is expensive in LA, and I do not like that at all. I'm too used to my Texan prices. I finally arrived at Lounge 21. I met up with Mars, Josh, and calmed down with Shell and Corey, and sitting in line was pretty nice. Speaking of which, I almost forgot to mention day 2. At the end of day 2, we actually went and had dinner with Corey and Shell. It was me, Shondell, Tortilla, Corey Maru, and Pseudo Shell. And we went out to Little Tokyo and we had dinner, and it was really nice, actually. We had a great time together, not only just trying to find a restaurant to eat at. We were gonna do this sushi place, but then we realized the prices for it. But we settled on a different place where unfortunately we couldn't be seated together, but we still had a great time talking to each other, enjoying each other's company. Afterwards, we got ice cream, and it was a really fun night that I definitely do not want to forget because we just had such a great time together. It felt like going out, you know how it unironically felt like like a dragon for a second, as silly as it is. You know, being just being all together. We didn't run into any enemies, unfortunately, but like being together with all our friends was just so much fun, and then enjoying each other's company, having to help Corey charge his phone and all that. It was just I had a great time that night. Back to Essence of Fandom. Oh, Essence of Fandom, I was so excited for, but I was like right beforehand. I remember Mars and Josh had to kind of help me sit down or whatever because I was just dying after a look back and like trying to get like water in me and stuff like that. Oh yeah, that's where we met Cyrix, and Cyrix also helped me out because he was like, all right, we needed you to get some sugar in you, so we just went and got some soda or whatever. Had to pay like what, $8 for a freaking anime soda, and I'm like, what? But I was just like, by that point I just did not care. I just like, I needed something. I needed any sorts of energy or anything that give me $8 for soda. My god. And during that line, it was a lot of RGG fans, definitely, because everyone has in cosplay and stuff like that. We were standing next to our Goromi cosplayer. Queen Panda Bear is her name. Please check out her Instagram. Here you go. But yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff there. And at Essence of Fandom, it was like kind of an hour wait to get in, but because I started line up around 7, and then we got in around 8:05. But already, the first lobby entrance, they had like a lot of stuff. They had mahjong. They had the wall where you can put like a note of like your favorite games. They had every single mainline RGG game there. They had like, you can essentially, you know, they had like a list of like all the RGG games, and you can put your own notes and stuff like that about like how they affected you and like how they made you feel, or like why it's your favorite in the series. It could be like art, whatever you wanted to do. And reading all of them, honestly, I didn't get the chance to read every single one, but a lot of the ones I read for Like a Dragon, you know, 7, like it kind of got me a little emotional just seeing how much this series means to everyone. And I did check out the other walls. I saw a bunch of memes on Yakuza 4. I felt like I was the only one who put something really sweet for Yakuza 6 personally, but there was different like there was a lot of really, it was really sweet going down memory lane and seeing everyone's love for the series. I didn't get the chance to read all the Zero ones because all the Zero ones was like, it was a big wall of Zero. 0 and 7 had the biggest ones. But there was still like ones for they made like some of the fans made secret ones. One for like Lost Judgment on the right side. There was one made for Kororyu, and there was another made for Dead Souls. So all the obscure ones did get love in that wall. Like I said, there was also Mahjong. I mostly saw Cyrix over there. He was the one playing Mahjong the most I saw. They had Super Hang On and Outrun machines there too. They had the photo ops, and they had Crystal as Goro Majima, Vampy Vitmi as Yakuza 0 Majima, and of course my goat Hikaru Shida was there. I was so happy to meet her. She was Ichiban, and then like I think I was the first in line because I saw her and I was just like, oh, people were taking pictures of that Ichiban cop. Wait, that's Hikaru Shida! So I had to go over, and I was just like, oh my god, it's Hikaru Shida, I'm so happy to see you, that sort of thing. And then like we got our picture. Since we were both Ichiban, she loved that I had Nancy. And then the very reason I was so happy for this is that I made sure that I actually brought my Hikaru Shida action figure from AW Figure all the way, you know, from, because I got that all the way back in Christmas 2022 from my sister. And I never thought, and like, I was so scared to ask her to sign it, but I just went ahead and just like, hey, can you ask her if she can sign this? And she's like, yeah, of course. And then, you know, I was just like, you know, I was so happy that she said yes. And do not worry, it's never going on eBay. I'm keeping it. I'm one of those fans who do not put their stuff on eBay. Heck, I wouldn't mind if you put my name on it or whatever. But yes, I am keeping that. It is a keepsake that I will treasure forever, that I actually got to meet Hikaru Shida, because I've been a fan of her kind of ever since I've started getting back into wrestling, because of when I watched her live at San Antonio, I think AEW Christmas San Antonio back in 2022, and like she was the main event, and I remember her losing, unfortunately, but I do the memories I had of her like essentially not giving up during the entire time, because like it was like the show was about to end and she kicked out of like three different finishers, and it was crazy when that happened, because I remember the crowd going absolutely wild for her, and I was going wild for her. And it's like she was a part of one of my favorite wrestling experiences like that I've ever been to. But yeah, I was making sure I was getting, like, when they finally opened the dance floor, I didn't go in immediately, but like, when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, they had more? It wasn't just this lobby area? They had Pocket Circuit, which unfortunately didn't work that much. They had a bunch of like standees. They had like a bunch of standees across the area, like of all the different characters, so like Ichiban, Sayako, Namba, Tomizawa, Zhao, all of them, and they had a little Kamurocho pick photo op standee or whatever, where it would be like the Kamurocho gate, and of course everyone took pictures there. And the best part was probably the dance floor, because even at the beginning we were breaking it down, because we were just dancing to the music from the series, with putting the RGG community in one room, where even if a song wasn't really getting into it, we still got hyped over the dumbest things ever. There was someone who had a PS2 copy of Yakuza, and then like during a song we really weren't getting into, they just brought out the PS2 copy and we started like bowing to it, and like we got a PS2 chant going. We did our sure peepees and we pledged our loins to Muhan Kohep. We there was a Beyblade tournament that went on for a second. There were people dancing. We did our praises to Nancy. There was a shake. I fought Mr. Shakedown and unfortunately crashed into Midnight Curious, which she was really nice as well. Bless her heart. And again, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Did not want to hurt you. So yeah. And when it finally came down to it, when they finally did the whole event, they essentially had, Nakaya came out and had like a little panel, and like one of the producers from RGG. And so they had like fan questions, a lot of really interesting fan questions too. They also had a karaoke competition, which it was essentially, like I mentioned before, Rocco was in it. It was Rocco, he did Bakamitai, and I was judging him. Unfortunately for him, he did get a bit unique when it came to the final verses of the song, which unfortunate. With Crystal, she did a pretty good 24-hour Cinderella, and she ended up winning the competition with So Much More, which I was not expecting that one, honestly, but it was a really good choice for her, and apparently she practiced like over and over again in her hotel room, so yeah. Oh my gosh. And then after that, they had a whole they opened up the dance floor for John. I was tired. I danced my butt off that night, and I think I was like, it really showed, because by that point, like by like I think 12 or 12:30, like I was taking off my wig and I was just like completely out of it. But I had a great time at Essence of Fandom. It was a really RGG focused, community led event that I hope Sega will do again, or do something like similar to this, because I had a really fantastic time. I feel like the size was perfect too as well. I think 650 people was like that's technically a lot, but like I felt like it was perfect. Nothing felt like it was like crammed or anything. We weren't fully crammed in there, and yeah. And yeah, there was a bunch of cosplayers who asked for pictures and stuff like that, and I made sure I took pictures as well, so of them as well, if they were in cosplay as well, so just want to remember them by. But and I guess we can move on to day 4, and day 4 is not really eventful, because there's one more thing I forgot. Yes, I forgot to mention, I think on day 2, either day 2 or day 3, I did get the chance to play Hunter x Hunter. The new Hunter x Hunter game that's like it's 3v3, it's Marvel, made by Aiding, and I thought it was pretty fun. It's a bit slower than I was expecting, but still, I really enjoyed like the mechanics they had on offer. It's a bit simple. It's a bit more simple to my liking, but I still kind of enjoyed it because of, I'm not really a huge Hunter x Hunter person. I know no one on the roster. I just know there's the creator goes on a bunch of hiatuses and that's it. And I know of like Pito, I think, the the cat thing or whatever. That's all I know about Hunter x Hunter. So when I played it, I didn't really have much to think about it, about the series or whatever. But I thought the game was fun. I thought, a lot of the same things are there, like Overdrive, and like, it's a bit simple to my liking, but I could see it kind of getting its like own niche fan base, I guess. Like a niche little crowd of who wants to play it. So yeah, my day 4, didn't really do much of day 4, unfortunately. Because by the time my day 4 was consumed with playing Metaphor. Because that was the day I finally got into the line and finally got the chance to play Metaphor ReFantazio. And Metaphor ReFantazio, despite the 2-hour wait, it was a 2-hour long wait to finally play Metaphor. And luckily, thanks to the people at the booth, I actually got to do 2 out of 3 of the experiences. So in the demo, you get 2 out of 3 experiences to do. You get, the first one is like you get to experience the story or whatever, or like the beginning. The second one was like the dungeon aspect of the game, and the third one was a boss fight. So I tried the boss fight first, and I wasn't originally getting into Metaphor because of that, because all it was to me, it just felt like, you know, fantasy Persona. It was Persona 5 again, because that was strictly based on just doing the combat, because, you know, you're doing a boss fight, and, you know, you have the press turn system and stuff like that. Yeah, it's the basic press turn system that you've seen from Persona and Shin Megami Tensei games when you play it just in combat mode or whatever. But when I did the dungeon part, that's when I realized we were back. So Metaphor ReFantazio, essentially when you're in the dungeons, you can either battle enemies on the field, or you can go into squad mode and essentially battle them in turn-based mode. So like, for example, if an enemy is already really weak, you can just, you know, you can easily just slice and kill them easy, right? And if you want to get an advantage on one of the enemies, you can easily just like, say for example, if it's like an enemy close to your level, you can you can start attacking them, and then when they get launched, you can go into battle, and then you can go into battle and then go turn-based mode, and you'll have a high advantage because you stunned them and you got the player advantage. But with like regular enemies, or like, you know, enemies who are way higher above you, you can attack them for like extra damage or stuff like that. But most likely, if you're not careful, they can attack you, and then they get their advantage as well. I kind of experienced that with like, I think with a Minotaur enemy or whatever. So, and I'm not gonna lie, Metaphor, like, I feel like the gameplay is good, but it's not gonna be the thing that keeps me coming back to it. I really want to play Metaphor for its story, and I want to play it for the soundtrack, because Megaro's soundtrack in Metaphor, it sounds so freaking good. There's chanting, there's gibberish, and it's like, it sounds very epic. It's very, I don't want to say it sounds like Fire Emblem, but of course it's supposed to have this medieval feel to it, but there's, like I said, there's chanting, there's like, you know, Buddhist like gibberish or whatever, and it kind of really plugs you in. And for every single one of those different types of fights I mentioned, like for example, if you get into a player advantage fight, it plays like the regular theme. If you get into an enemy advantage, it plays a different theme that's like more dire. And then like, if you get into just like a squad fight normally, it just plays a nice little regular theme. Like, there's a lot of dynamic soundtrack. There's like a little bit of a dynamic soundtrack going on there. This is like, I'm really looking forward to Metaphor. And I think even some of the characters and some of the English voice acting kind of got me kind of locked in too, because when I'm actually enjoying the English dub, usually when I hear like certain lines and stuff like that, I'm like, all right, yeah, you got it, bro. All right, that sort of thing. The only thing I didn't really like about the English dub is that Cassandra Lee Morris is doing the guide member again. So it's Morgana 2.0, so I didn't really see that much difference in her performance in comparison to Morgana. Like, there is definitely a difference, but I can still like, oh, this is just Morgana again, I guess. But I am really excited for Metaphor. I really want to see where the story goes, especially when it comes to like the different creatures. Like, apparently they have creatures called humans, aka Ningans or whatever, so there's different other like story things going on. I'm really looking forward to Metaphor. Like I said, like previously, like last year when I said it was like Atlus's best looking title in years, playing it at AX actually made me really reinforce that as well, because I really want this one to take off. And I'm really hoping I want to enjoy this game a lot, because it's original. To me, it's the most like original and unique thing they've done in such a long time. And it's also because they've been doing like Persona and all that kind of stuff. But Metaphor is like, I'm locked in for Metaphor, and I can't wait to play it. But yeah, that was like the only other thing I did on Sunday at AX, because most of Sunday at AX was just doing the last things, checking Artist Alley, making sure I didn't forget anything. And then like, by the time I got to the Metaphor line, it was like, what? And I was like, oh, there's only an hour left of the expo? Oh no! So yeah. But yeah, I didn't really get to do much stuff around LA. as someone, it was my first time in LA, I'm gonna be honest, I actually kind of liked it. So hopefully this doesn't take too long when I finally edit all this down, and I really hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I know this is unscripted, and that's for a kind of a point, because if I did do it like edited, it'd still take forever, but yeah, hopefully I can edit this down a bit more. And I hope everyone who I met at AX, it was nice meeting you as well. For the people I missed, I wish I could have met you, but hopefully next time, I don't even know, hopefully next time, or maybe when I revisit LA, so we'll see. Anyways, I'm gonna say bye for now. I hope everyone takes care, and see you later, and have yourselves a good one. And I'll add stuff in here and there if I forget. Anyway, take care, bye!
Yatsumani Nari so be the time.